So happy birthday iOS. It's been exactly 12 years since the release of iOS 1.0. It all started out with this iPhone right here, the iPhone 2G. I did made a dedicated video talking about the OG iPhone, but today we're going to be talking about iOS. Now the phone on the left, which is an iPhone 10, this is running iOS 13, the latest version of iOS. It's still in beta, it's coming out in the fall, my prediction like around September. And on the right we have the OG iPhone. This is running iOS 3 or iPhone OS 3. They started calling iOS's on iOS 4 and you have to pay $5 I believe just to update your iPhone. Oh my god. Now before I really get into it, I remember it was so easy to find like an iPhone charger with the 30-pin connector, but now it is a pain in the butt to find. I use this cable to power up this iPhone, but then as soon as it boot up it just stopped charging. It's just crazy on how much times change. I remember people hated Apple for changing the iPhone port, the charging port, but now everybody don't mind it because everybody has one already. I'm using this to stand up the iPhone because I don't have no dedicated stand, so I hope you guys don't mind. Really nostalgia feeling here. You know, you have the slide to unlock, you're swiping up now to open up your iPhone, and just the icons. Really looking at the icons, you guys can see it's a difference, but it's the same row of icons. You do have more columns of icons, but the rows are still the same. It's still the 4 icon grid, but for the most part there's only 3 new features on iOS 3 compared to iOS 13. Loads of many different features. Starting out with iOS 3, you did have Spotlight for the first time. This was new. So Spotlight allows you to search up for your apps, and I don't know if you can use it as a calculator. It wasn't that advanced at the time. It was only used for searching up your applications. You had cut, copy, and paste, so that was first introduced. So first time ever you can copy and paste text on an iPhone. So I'm gonna make a little note here, SimplyPops. So you can double tap it, you can copy. This was new. Yeah, so this was revolutionary for Apple. And then last but not least, since only 3 features, iOS 3 features, the home page, or should I say the home screen. The home screen raised the limit, so you can have up to 11 pages of applications, which is bringing up the total of applications you can install 180. So I don't know what's the limit now in iOS 13. I'm pretty sure it's like 1,000 apps you can have, or whatever the max capacity of your phone, but at the time it was only 180 apps you can install, and it was only 11 pages that you can have at a time. There was no folder support. There was no, you know, obviously didn't have no landscape. The clock isn't moving here. And very quickly going over some features of iOS 13, you have dark mode. So first time, you know, literally it's a day night difference. You know, you have dark mode here and you still have a light interface here. It wasn't too bad. It was a blue, you know, nice little blue design. And you can quickly enable dark mode by activating your control center and tapping on this toggle right here. And it also changes the wallpaper, and you have a nice dark interface, you know. And I would say this thing really aged well. I mean, it's just so iconic looking at this. And yeah, but looking at the icons once again, Jony Ive. And also iOS finally brought swipe keyboard, so you can swipe on the keyboard for quick typing. So you guys can see how fast I, you know, type in SimplyPops or swipe type or whatever you like to call it. You know, you're missing out on a lot of features, but that's to be expected. But I just want to sit down and talk about Jony Ive's design of iOS 13, or iOS 7 through iOS 13 basically. And by the way, Jony Ive did not design these icons. Scott designed these icons. You guys remember Scott Forshell, something like that? I can't really remember his last name. He designed these icons. He was the design of iOS. He got fired, Apple laid him off, and then Jony Ive took over and designed these icons for us. So it's now, since Jony Ive left, I'm very curious to see the design of iOS 14, or really just the future of iPhone designs and iMac designs. So shout out to Jony Ive. I'm gonna miss him, man. I'm really gonna miss him. As you guys can see, Jony Ive helped design the iPod. I just feel like we lost some Apple history. Like we literally lost a bite of the apple. You know, Jony Ive is just gonna do better, bigger, better things. He reminds me of Steve Jobs, honestly. He's like the next generation of Steve Jobs. And I know Tim Cook is really the next generation of Steve Jobs, but Jony Ive was there pretty much since the beginning. He's been with Apple for 20 plus years. I'm seeing some sources saying even 30. So he's been there for a very long time, before I was even, some of you guys were even born. But yeah, so thank you, Jony Ive. And then we gotta have to wait and see what they're gonna do with the iPhone 12 or the next generation of iPads. Like, I'm very, very curious to see the future of Apple now that we lost Jony Ive. But getting back into iOS, and even the way how the applications open up, it's just different. You know what I mean? It's just way different, a lot faster on iOS 13, and I appreciate the skeuomorphism on iOS. I hope iOS 14 would bring the much needed design changes to iOS, bring a little bit more life to iOS. And you guys can see how that thing is just typing in as I'm talking right now. That is voice control, so I can control my iPhone using my voice. I know I'm going a little too fast here, but swipe left, swipe right, open Instagram. You can't do that on the original iPhone. Go home. And there you guys have it. So yeah, that's really cool. It's definitely going to drain battery life if you have that on at all times. I hope Apple will have like a control center module, you know, to have it enable and disable. Like, that would be really cool. As of now, they don't have a toggle for that or nothing. So you have to go into the settings, then go into the accessibilities, then voice control, and if you want it off, you could just toggle it off. It can get a little annoying having it on at all times, because if you go into your notes and you just start talking, it's automatically going to start typing. So let me just show you guys an example. So I turn on voice control, so now it should be typing as I'm talking. So yeah, so you guys can see it just put everything on it there. So it's cool, but it can get a little annoying at the same time if you were replying to a text message or something. But yeah, I can go on for days. There's so many features going on iOS 13. I can literally make an hour video just talking about all the features. I didn't even talk about Safari, having Safari downloader and flash drive and thumb drive support. But this is really where it all started right here. And I know this is iOS 13, but this was the last iOS to run on this iPhone right here. But let's say I want to go to clock. I'm on my clock application. I mean, you have the tabs on the bottom. It's just a little bit more features now you have, but it's exactly the same, guys. It just looks a little bit different. I'm very curious to know, guys, which design you like better, the new era of iOS or the old era of iOS. Comment down below and subscribe if you're new around here with notifications on. And other than that, your boy Pops, and I'm out of here. Peace. And also, I'm gonna be honest with you guys too, when iOS 3 came out, I probably only had an iPod. Like, I had the iPod with video. This one, exactly, well, iPhone wasn't even out yet. I got this iPod in 2005, but I still had it though, around the iPhone era. So I'm a true OG Apple fan. Like, I had Apple products for years, and yeah, I love Apple, but it's sad to see Jony Ive go.